My name is Das. I, I am a mechanical engineer. I have a firm that makes products for the manufacturing industry. One of the things that I do in my spare time is promote sustainable transport, which is cycling plus walking plus going by bus, essentially the public transport. I cycle everywhere. I mean, that's my vehicle essentially. So on days that I don't feel like cycling, I might use a bus or an auto. I have a car that I use very rarely, maybe less than 10% of the time. So I cycle from my office is in Jayanagar. It's about 13 kilometers from here. So I start maybe 7:30 a.m. and it takes me about 45 minutes in the morning to get to the office. Evening it might take me an hour to get back.
ನಮ್ಮ ಹೆಸರು ಅರುಳ್ ದಾಸ್ ನಾವು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ. ಸುಮಾರು 25 ವರ್ಷದಿಂದ ಸೈಕಲಲ್ಲಿ ಬರ್ತೀನಿ. ನಾನು ಸೈಕಲಲ್ಲಿ ಬರೋದು ಸುಮಾರು ನಮ್ಮ ಕಾಯ್ಸ್ಟೋನ್ ಇರೋದು 5-6 ಕಿಲೋಮೀಟ್ರ್ ಇರೋದು ಬರ್ತಾಯಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ಅಲ್ಲಿಂದ 7:30 ಬಿಡ್ತೀನಿ. ಬರ್ತೀನಿ, ಇಲ್ಲಿ 8 ಗಂಟೆ ಬರ್ತೀನಿ, ಮತ್ತೆ ತಿರ್ಗಾ 8 ಗಂಟೆ ಹೋಗ್ತಾಯಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ಹಾಫ್ ಆನ್ ಅವರ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಹೋಗೋಕ್ಕೆ. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಕೌಂಟ್ರಲ್ಲಿ ಪ್ಯಾಂಟ್ರಿ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡ್ತಾಯಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ಜ್ಯೂಸು, ಸ್ಯಾಂಡ್ವಿಚಸ್ಸು ಮತ್ತು ಕ್ಲಬ್ ಸ್ಯಾಂಡ್ವಿಚು, ಜ್ಯೂಸು, ಕಾಫಿ ಎಲ್ಲ ನಾವು ಸ್ನ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್ ಐಟಮ್ಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಸ್ನ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್, ಕಟ್ಲೆಟು, ಸಲಾಡು, ಆಮ್ಲೆಟು ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಮಾಡ್ತಾಯಿದ್ದೀವಿ.
Everyone would talk at work about cycling and saying, everyone should and things like that. And maybe I succumbed to that kind of peer pressure at some level. So I'm like, okay, let me try doing this as well. But I think once I started, I was really excited because A, it got me to work faster than driving did. And B, I realized that while cycling, there's just so much that you observe about the environment around you which you do not see when you're in a car or even on a bike because you're just focusing straight ahead. I had also signed up for a long distance cycling trip which I had never done before. That was more of an exciting thing to do in the weekend, and I was like, oh, maybe I should train for that so that I do not fall on the road. So I said, okay, maybe cycling to work and back would give me some kind of practice, which is why I said, let me do this as well. So yeah, it's around that time that all these things happened.
There have always been people who cycled around in the city. I mean, when we were kids, we went to school by bicycle, so lots of people did that. Somehow along the way, because of the growth of the city, all of this seemed to get lost. But there have always been die-hard cycling fans, people who felt for their own health reasons, for environmental reasons, they should do stuff.
Everybody understands today it is a given that bicycling has absolutely zero negative externalities. It doesn't cause pollution, right? It does not congest your streets. You can have as many cycles as you can. It can coexist, and it is actually positively beneficial to the person's health as well. And it can solve a lot of the transportation problems that you have today with the motorized transport. So the bicycle per se is absolutely ideal for commute. You have a good weather also, and the city is built for being able to take commute, but you're still having policies which are moving towards causing more chaos, more negative externalities and all that.
About 2 decades ago is when the really bad traffic problems started here, the pollution, the traffic jams and so on. And I felt that I was adding to the problems. I was adding to the pollution and so on. That was number one. Number two, I wanted to make, equally important, I wanted to make exercise a part of my daily life instead of, something that you do specially in a gym in the evenings or something.
ಇಲ್ಲ ಬಸ್ ಕಾಯ್ಕೊಂಡು ಇರಬೇಕು. ಬಸ್ಗೆ ಅಂದರೆ ಕರೆಕ್ಟಾಗಿ ಡ್ಯೂಟಿಗೆ ಬರೋಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ ನನಗೆ. ಸೈಕಲ್ ಅಂದರೆ ಬೇಗ ಕರೆಕ್ಟಾಗಿ ಬರ್ಬೋದು. ಬಸ್ ನಮ್ಮ ಬರೋ ಟೈಮ್ ಬಸ್ ಇರೋಲ್ಲ, ವೆಯ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಲ್ಲಿ. ಅದಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರ ಬಸ್ ಇಲ್ಲ, ನಾವು ಸೈಕಲ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಈಸಿ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ನಮಗೆ. ಟ್ರಾಫಿಂಗ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ನಮ್ಮ ಸೈಕಲ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋಗ್ತೀನಲ್ಲ, ಟ್ರಾಫಿಂಗ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಎಲ್ಲ ಗುಡ್ಪಾದ ಮೇಲೆ ಹಂಗೆ ಬರ್ಬೋದು. ನಾವು ಗಾಡಿ ಅಂದರೆ ಹಂಗೆ ಅದು ಎಷ್ಟು ವೆಯ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ಸೈಕಲ್ ಆದರೆ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಗುಡ್ಪಾದ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ತಲೆ ಹೋಗಿ ಬರ್ತಾಯಿದ್ದೆ.
For me, I primarily cycle for work, although I would also like to cycle more. Like when I go out to meet friends on the weekend and stuff, I'd like to do that more, but I don't. So mostly because I'm unsure of where to park when I go. So with office, it's easy because there's a gate and I can go and park it inside and I don't have to worry about it getting lost. But, when I park it anywhere else in the city, it becomes a little bit more problematic. So I've had times when, I go into a restaurant and then I say, hey, can I actually keep my cycle inside rather than outside? And, I'm met with raised eyebrows, but usually people say okay, but it's still like a awkward moment which you need not have in that sense, right?
Cyclists need trees, like pedestrians need trees. So you don't have the shade, it becomes more difficult to cycle in the hot sun.
My office is to the east of me, so in the morning I'm cycling towards the sun, and in the evening I'm cycling again towards the sun because, you know, I'm cycling westwards. And spaces where there are trees, it just makes it a magical experience because the temperature is cool and there's really nice wind and stuff. And then the moment you come out in the sun, it's like blazing hot sun on your head, right? So I was just thinking that today morning actually while I was cycling, because it just makes a huge difference when you have trees and you feel like, you know, it's actually a pleasurable experience as opposed to a commute. And, you know, I think it makes a huge difference in that sense.
So I typically avoid all the main roads where traffic is moving fast. My roads are all the narrow, congested roads where traffic is moving at more or less the same speed as the bicycle. The traffic, the lack of special lanes for cyclists is one big thing. You don't have signals. So when a cyclist is at a traffic intersection and, you know, wants to turn right, and then the rest of the traffic wants to turn left, then you're in conflict there, you got a problem. It becomes very dangerous, in fact.
There are ways to actually figure this out where you have, like, in a signal, the spot for cars to stop is behind where the cyclists stop in that sense. So it's easy to shift lanes because of that, right? So, but that has not happened in India yet. So just a thought there.
We're trying to cram the cyclist into the street. We need to rethink the street. And that will only happen when the number of people doing this activity goes up.
You need to plan for mobility and not for traffic. Because traffic is what you see on road, mobility is what you want.
Another problem with BBMP, they don't have any idea about these things. That is, they don't have any idea about promoting cycle stand, or they don't want to invest anything on cycle. They wanted to do only on roads, lanes and all.
Why are new roads being built and new lanes being added? If you answer that question, you will have an answer to this as well, because there are enough people with motor vehicles who are clogging, causing a jam and saying, I need more road space. Are there enough bicyclists today coming in and saying, we are enough of us, give us a bicycle lane? That doesn't exist.
And so there were multiple things that started. One set of people started organizing long cycle rides on weekends to go out of the city. Another set of people said, well, we must try to figure out if certain parts of the city can be made easier, safer to bicycle. And then during 2009-10, some of us proposed that the areas around the lakes could be turned into bicycle tracks that would be reasonably safe for people. And another set of people said we could take an area like Jayanagar, like HSR layout, build out an actual plan for separating cycle lanes from others and run it through the municipality, through the Department of Land Transport, and build it out into a program in the city.
3 years back, when our our commissioner for traffic management, he with some of our BBMP officials, they came to our office one day and they asked me to support them for these cycle lanes and many other things. Actually, there was a proposal for about 45 kilometers in and around Jayanagar. It had amounted about 4 crores. And I went through all the process, designing and the lanes which they were marking for cycles. And I had also suggested them to cover the areas where schools, colleges and some parks, and which will be connected to their residential area and all. And I had a suggestion that we should do for some 5 to 10 kilometers first and see the consequences, and then we will go for 45 kilometers. But because of various reasons and governmental process, it was laid for once for all, it was done for 45 kilometers. they had that marking on that cycle lane, illumination, parking slots for the signaling, some scientific humps, pedestrian crossing. For that also they had marking, boards, everything. Really, it took some 6 to 8 months, but they did a good job.
Jayanagar, where this thing was started on an experimental basis. But the bicycle lanes there are, number one, they are soft lanes. They're just lines on the road which can be violated. You need to have, either you need to come down very heavily in terms of fines on people who violate those lanes, or you have hard lanes where there's a small concrete strip and you can't violate the lane. So Jayanagar, if they'd had hard lanes and if they'd had signals, bicycle signals at the traffic intersections, that would have been much better. Plus, the third thing is to promote cycling, to actually make it cool, advertise in a big way. The government spends a lot of money promoting this as a mode of transport and so on.
I think this should be, we should take some precautionary measure that the cycle lane should be on footpath, or it should be some 2 or 3 centimeters or some 10 centimeters above these normal routes. It should be really bifurcated. If it is not done, people will be using for parking, and they don't care for cyclists. And children who are really want to cycle and go to take cycle and go to schools or college and all, they will not be treated properly. The people, the students and all, they are ready and they are eager to use. They are eagerly waiting for us to make some arrangements. Police on and off and they do it. We want to do it on a regular basis. BBMP officials, as it is throughout the country, they are not. They will not be of much helpful, but we should see that we make them to do the work.
See, what happened, I think they started thinking of this as a physical infrastructure project rather than a social change project. So as a result of it, all the physical infrastructure came about, but the social change did not come about. Nobody really opposed it. Here's the beauty of it. This is one of those things that failed because nobody opposed it. And you would think that if nobody opposed it, why on earth should it fail? Because what you need for a social change project is not just to make sure that nobody opposes it. You need people that support it on the ground as well. Cops need to support it. People in their neighborhoods need to support it. Some people in the community need to believe that this is theirs. And that didn't happen. It was conceived like a project rather than like a civic activity for a lot of people together.
So the important part is government does some enablement in isolation. It does it because there is a demand or they want to encourage, but the encouragement doesn't translate into communication to citizens that's saying, here is a cycle lane, these are the etiquettes of using the road. And if there are enough of you on the road, you will be safe. That thing is not percolating in, if you have a critical mass of people riding on the roads in bicycles, and we have observed through experience that more people on cycles on the road lends itself to safety. There are more people aware that there are cyclists that are going to be here when I travel these roads. They know that and they are going to be more safer.
Data from Gurgaon shows 1/3 population is walking on cycling, 20% of footpaths are usable, and there is not a single kilometer of cycle track. So supply is not there, but yet 1/3 population is walking or cycling. So when we went to agencies saying that give us footpath, give us cycle track, the first pushback that we got was Gurgaon is the most prosperous city as per the recent survey. What are you talking about walking and cycling? So when we were getting this pushback, we said let's demonstrate a proof of concept, saying that if you give us safe infrastructure for walking and cycling, people will walk and cycle irrespective of their income group, irrespective of where they belong to, and so people will walk and cycle. But you need to give the safe infrastructure, right? And so with this concept, we thought let's do something called a Rahagiri. Now, Rahagiri is basically a model around a concept called cyclovia, which started in Bogota in 1976. And from 4.5 kilometers, they go on to 130 kilometers. From few thousand, now about 1 million Bogotans participate on every Sunday. So we thought within the same concept, let's close down street for vehicles and let's open it up to people. Initially we thought we will struggle with the police, but police were the first set of people that said, let's do it. So what we did next was to develop a traffic management plan, saying that even if you want to use your car, you will go at a slower speed on the service road, but you can still go wherever you want. So internally I was thinking if 1,000, 1,500 people come up on a Sunday, 17th November, I'll be the first person who will shout saying that's a huge success, it's a huge success. And so, but what we saw on 17th completely blew us away. So there were 10,000 people who turned up on the first Sunday. And so when the next Sunday came in, a lot of people said there's a lot of curiosity factor which led to 10,000 people. Next Sunday it will go down to 4,000, 5,000. But next Sundays was 12,000, 14, 16, 20. And so with every Sunday it went on increasing. What has also been really phenomenal is that the concept is now being replicated. So in January, there was a Lahagri Day in Ludhiana, which really is doing very well. And then from March onwards, there's a Lahagri Day in Navi Mumbai, which is happening. So there are 2 cities which are already replicating. We're in contact with about 4 or 5 more cities who want to do this kind of work. Because the idea is that unless you engage community, that really adds value. It really adds, because now it's the community which is demanding a safe infrastructure, rather than some of us who are trying to shout and say, do cycle track, do footpath. It is a community which is coming in.
So all of these things happened in parallel. It's an ecosystem of people that are mutually supportive of each other started to do this. We started the cycle sharing program in IISc, the number cycle program, that also happened in parallel. So what you have is a situation in which there isn't an attributable, this is the way it started kind of thing. There are multiple starting points, and now all of this is starting to come together in a single, more visible way. And it looks like all of this is part of the same movement, but in many ways, the credit for a lot of this goes to people who did small things in their own neighborhoods. And I think events like Cycle Day have the potential to consolidate all this that much more visibly, because thousands of people come to Cycle Day.
My name is Yatish. I am here for the Cycle Day volunteering. You can see this. So, and then basically I am here because of my passion for cycling, and so I cycled to school. I cycled till end of my second year of degree. So, and then I stopped and I restarted it maybe I think after 10 years.
My name is Mudath, and I work with Samsung. And I've been cycling for almost 4 years, cycling and running. I've engaged my kids also in this activity, and it's pretty healthy for them. And along with my kid, her friends are also here today, cycling, playing the street games and reclaiming the streets. I don't cycle to work. I cycle mostly on the weekends, go around Sarjapur, Whitefield and Kyapuram areas. Less traffic on the road and some discipline and some respect for the cyclists. Even if they see a cyclist, they don't give him the right of way, and it's a little dangerous. That's the only thing.
So Cycle Day as a concept was to encourage people to feel safe on the road, and how we do that was by barricading some roads and showing to both the motorists and to the public that you can coexist on these roads. You cannot wish away motorists, but what you can do is develop empathy. It is very important to develop empathy. If you ride a bike today, you will empathize when you get on the car that I need to respect this cyclist because I know the challenges he faces. How unsafe he is, I know because I got on the bike and I rode on the street. These are things that we communicate when we do the Cycle Day. And of course, I want people to enjoy not just bicycling but pedestrian activities. We close the road. We give people the opportunity to come and enjoy the street, reclaim the street, and take up cycling as an option and walking as an option. People walk, people play, they enjoy the streets more, and they feel less unsafe when they get on the street next time. When they are a pedestrian on, on their local street, they know this is not a bad street per se. And when they take the car out, they develop empathy toward the other guys who are on the street. So I think Cycle Day as a concept was for that purpose.
I don't think people respect cyclists so much because I think there are a bunch of reasons for this. And firstly, cycling is not seen as something of status, right? It's not a prestigious thing to do. So forget me, I've seen how other cyclists also struggle, and like you're not given way, and you're not people like honk when they pass you, and things like that, which is not required, right? So it's not respected in that sense. I've also seen at the same time when people see me, I can see sometimes a look of realization saying, oh, it is an option, because I don't want to bring in a class thing, but okay, let's bring in the class thing, which is, I can actually afford to drive a car or go by bike to work, but I'm choosing to not and to cycle instead. So I think that kind of choice, maybe it becomes available to more people when they see more people, actually cycling in that sense. So I think that becomes quite a thing. So sometimes I see that happening, not often, but I do.
The cycle is clearly more accessible to a lot more people. It's cheaper, certainly, than putting petrol in a motorcycle or even buying bus tickets. But the thing is that historically, so we reached a point where cycle began to be seen as a choice for poor people. And it's kind of changing now. Now people are saying cycle could be a choice even for rich people, for middle class people, because there are other values that need to be nourished as well. And in a way, it's a good thing because even poor people start to benefit from a culture in which rich people see their choices as being enabling not only for themselves, but for a lot of other people as well.
A third aspect around this is the fact that I am a woman and that I am cycling. And I think it just makes you much more open to the world around you, right? Which also comes with its own vulnerability. The staring, like, it never ends. Like, people look, people turn back and look, people look out of autos and look, so it just makes you feel a little bit more conscious. So you have to build an armor to say it's okay, I don't care what the world around me is seeing, I'm just going to go ahead and do this anyways. So that's kind of fairly, it takes time to get used to it. So another thing which I haven't done so far, and it's my own fear, is to cycle at night. So, which is why another reason why I leave work early. I try to beat the darkness in that sense. So I know of people who've cycled late at night, and they've never faced significant problems, but it's something that I haven't built the courage for yet because, multiple things, I don't have a headlight for my cycle, so I haven't invested in one yet. So and you can't really trust the street lights in the city to work in that sense. So I haven't done that. Second, I'm scared that people won't see me because of the same reason. So I have reflectors and stuff, but I'm not confident that people will not see me, which makes me a little bit more vulnerable to accidents and things like that, which I'm not sure if I want to risk yet.
It's unfortunate that the planning environment in the city and in the country in general do not attach as much importance to non-motorized transport as they do to motorized transport. Even cars and buses and motorcycles get way more money, not just a little bit more money, way more money than people who walk and people who take bicycles. If you simply found a way of shifting some of that money to non-motorized movement, you would get a very different culture out of it.
When they ride through mixed traffic, there are concerns of, there is fast moving and there is slow moving traffic. We don't have that concept yet. They all run through mixed speeds. So we've always proposed that on the priority corridors like the big 12 and the outer ring roads and all that, they need segregated cycle tracks, physically segregated, because the traffic moves fast and the margin of error is very less. So there is a need to lay segregated cycle tracks on fast moving corridors.
In one and a half years afterwards, we have our metro also. People will be happy to use from metro to that residential area and all. We have our plans from the metro station to the residential area, but now it cannot be implemented because the metro stations are not operative. So after 1.5 years, we will touch that also. But now we have chosen some 8 to 10 places. They take the cycle, they come to 4th block Jayanagar. It's a very prominent area. We have shopping complex, bus stand and all. From there, we have a connectivity towards all the direction. So that's a idea we have a new idea which we are working on it.
Yeah, the 2 or 3 things can be done. In large developments that are planned, like larger than 30 acres, 40 acres kind of thing, the cycle pathway should be made part of the development plan sanction itself. So automatically you'll get 1 or 2 kilometers in every new project that comes up. For parks, large parks and lakes, you must weave cycling around them into the design of those projects themselves. Companies should say, if we should have a simple rule that says, if you are willing to put 10 parking spots for employees who come by car, you must create 2, at least for those who come by bicycle, right? So if in 2 car parking spots, you can put 20 bicycles. If the companies start encouraging employees to come by bicycles, then they'll even choose to live closer. Here's the irony, that these are all tightly coupled. Living choices, commute choices, expenditure choices, everything is tightly coupled. So in a way, if companies begin to promote it, a lot more things can happen. So there are some 3-4 things like this. Design can be improved, the communication can be improved, the arterial roads can be rethought, the neighborhood roads can be rethought. We should be open to the idea. We're willing to say every once in a while commercial street should be made pedestrian. That means somewhere we're open to the idea that a street can be completely pedestrian. Why can't we be open to the idea that a street can be only for cycles and pedestrians?
You need to plan for mobility and not for traffic. Because traffic is what you see on road, mobility is what you want.